The first guest of the evening is truly a poet. He's an artist. He is a friend and an inspiration to anyone who I think who has ever played the guitar or tried to write poetry. Would you please welcome Gordon Lightfoot?
This is Carefree Highway Revisited, the show that celebrates the work of Gordon Lightfoot song by song, with all episodes available for free at www.lightfootpodcast.com. I'm your host, Mike Messner, and today we're doing an artist perspective, and it's my great pleasure to welcome from Nova Scotia, John Gracie. John, welcome to Carefree Highway Revisited.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. How did you first get into Gordon's music?
Well, first, let me say, I can't believe that I'm sitting here on a podcast talking about Gordon Lightfoot. I was such a fan of his and still am, obviously, but it was 1967. It was Canada's centennial year, right? He was on CBC television walking down a railroad track singing the Canadian Railroad Trilogy.
Right.
I became a fan then. And then he inspired me. I went out and bought a guitar, or bought new strings for an old guitar that I had. And I started to imitate a little bit and stuff like that. So quite a while ago.
This is before my time, but I can remember seeing footage of that. And I thought it was a very appropriate setting for a very appropriate song, because the railroad made Canada, at least on an economic level, as much as anything else did.
That was quite an achievement. Back then, it linked the country from coast to coast. I mean, it was very important.
And I remember I had John McLaughlin on the show the first season, and he was able to give me a lot of the history of it. Of course, I know a decent amount about the American railroad industry, but not so much about the Canadian. And so John was very, very helpful with that. And John, if you're listening, I'd really love to have you back on the show again sometime. What about seeing Lightfoot in concert? What was that like for you? Where did you see him? What songs did he play? What was the experience like?
Well, it wasn't that kind of a concert that I could remember, because I'll tell you what happened. We were at the Halifax Metro Centre here in Nova Scotia, and I had just recorded a record, and the drummer on my record was actually Gordon's drummer, Barry Keane.
No kidding. Wow.
Apparently, I was completely innocent. My wife and I were sitting there waiting for the show to start. And apparently he looked out through the curtains, Barry did, and said, "Oh, there's John. I know John's a big fan of Gord's. Wonder if John would like to come back and meet him." So this is my first experience with this, right? I missed the concert. I never saw it. All I could was sitting there like going, "Oh my God, I'm going to get to meet Gordon Lightfoot." But came from that, probably the nicest part of meeting Gordon Lightfoot ever. I met him several times after shows and stuff like that. The best thing that happened that night, we went backstage and they had a big 8-foot-long tables and coffee and munchies and stuff like that sitting there. And I was sitting there with the band. And my wife was with me, and Gordon came out of the dressing room and he came to the table and he sat down and we started talking and laughed. He was great. He was really, really wonderful. He was very accommodating. But something happened. My wife said to him, being who she is, an A personality, she said, "Oh, Gordon, you and the guys will have to come to our home the next time you're in Halifax." And of course, that must have turned several shades of blue. And I looked at her and I said, "Oh my God, Andre, leave the man alone." They're on tour, right? And he looked at me and he said, "John," he said, "I can relate to this." And I said, "Well, really?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan." And I had Bob Dylan at my house one day, and we were sitting down talking about everything that we could come up with. After about an hour, I asked him if he was hungry, and he said, "Yeah, I could have something to eat." So I went in, I made some sandwiches, and I brought them out and put them down in front of Bob. And Bob looked at me and just stared at me, and Gordon said, "Well, what's wrong?" He said, "Well, Gordon, I just finished telling you I just got back from Israel, where I found myself as a Jew, and you made me a ham sandwich." Now, that's not the important part of the story. The important part of the story is how he was trying to make me feel more comfortable, right, after being a little bit embarrassed, right? "We'll come to your house. We just met you, and we're going to come to your house next time we're in town," right?
Well, it's very sweet. It's a nice sentiment anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Buzz. So I had a really good personal introduction to the man. So that's my good story. Yeah.
he always seems like he would be the kind of guy who, after you knew him relatively well, he would say, hey, here's my address. I'll be here at 10 o'clock in the morning. Why don't you come out and over and hang out?
That's Canada too, right?
If you say so. I mean, I'm
is.
ready to believe it.
It's very organic. You can't say I'm going to be this guy's friend and we're going to be friends. It either happens or it doesn't happen. It's very organic.
No, okay, I understand. And I think that's probably the best way rather than it being forced.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a star like Gordon and stuff, like the last thing you need is people coming up and trying to be your friend and everything just because they play guitar and stuff like that. So you got to be a little bit understanding of the situation that he's in. And somebody said about Anne Marie or something like that. Imagine if Anne Marie was walking down the street in any city and she wanted to go to the drugstore to get something, how long it would take her to do that, right? You're Anne Marie.
I can imagine that if you had been in the spotlight as long as Gordon was, then you might get a little bit wary of people wanting pieces of your time, particularly in the days when he was just larger than life superstar. So I can understand what you're talking about with that. So you obviously are a professional musician. So I'm wondering, what is it about Lightfoot's songwriting that resonates with you the most as a musician, not more generally as a human being, but specifically as a musician?
I've been writing and listening to songs for a long time. And the thing that I find about it, for me personally anyway, is the ability for the writer to combine a lyric and combine a melody and create a completely different element in the song. When I think of that, I think of Gordon, but I also think of Snowbird's Anne Murray. Think about Snowbird, right? A jaunty, da, 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 right? Beautiful song, and I mean, nailed it at the park as usual. When you think of the Snowbird, it's a jaunty song, but it's the saddest song in the world. You take that lyric and you put it with something different and you create a third thing. And that's what I find I'm always looking for in songs, is that magic element, that feeling, that emotion. And that's what I think Gordon has tapped into. He understands lyric and he understands melody. And they asked him what his style was. I think it was quote, you probably know this as well as I do, more probably, that he said it was simplicity with a touch of class, wasn't it?
He used that phrase in describing his style, yes. And I think that was probably as apt a description as you could get about the man. It was style, and there was just enough class in it to make you realize that this is somebody who really worked hard at his craft. He wasn't just going through the motions, I guess is what I'm saying.
He worked at it. It was very important to him. And he seems like, from what I've heard about him, is that he really did sit down and work at it. I mean, think about the work that had to be put in to write the Edmund Fitzgerald, the research alone, just to get it right. And then you're putting those lyrics together and telling that story, right? Same thing with Canadian Railroad Trilogy. Think of Don Quixote, the simplicity of that story and how crafted it was. And it's amazing. He's up there with the best. He's a little bit like Elton John in the sense that once Elton does the song and once Gordon does his song, that's it. That's the best version you're ever going to get.
Yes.
You're never going to get a better version of an Elton John song than Elton John. You're never going to get a Gordon Lightfoot version like Gordon Lightfoot.
Even Judy Collins said that, because she recorded Early Morning Rain, as did many, many other people. But she said Gordon still sings that song better than anyone else can. That's coming from Judy Collins, which is a pretty good authority.
Yeah.
Is there one Lightfoot lyric that hits you personally every time you sing it?
From the very first time I heard it was, I heard you talking in your sleep. I think it's an underrated song. I think it's one of his more clever, like, you think about it, there's only those lyrics. He doesn't go into the story. He doesn't take you into their lives. He's just creating that emotional thing, that what I just talked about, where you took a lyric and you took a melody, you put it together and you got a third thing. You had the reality of somebody discovering that they're being cheated on or being looked over by their partner or something, right? There was some debate when I was thinking about that, but I think it would be that one. Just the general simplicity and the emotion that comes through it. And I heard you talking in your sleep. Is there anything that I can do?
It's a great examination of the tension that happens in any relationship, because there are some things that you can't control. And if you are dreaming, you have no control over what you're dreaming. I haven't done an episode on talking in your sleep yet, but I can tell you that when we did Don Quixote, which was a while back, that has always been far and away my favorite Lightfoot song. And speaking as somebody who has tried on at least 2 occasions to read the book Don Quixote de la Mancha.
Me too.
In English, I've never tried to read
Guilty.
original Spanish because I'd probably give up after 5 minutes. But
I'd be scared I'd understand it.
Well, I mean, I can speak Spanish, but who has that much time? Because I'd have to translate it all as I'm going. I can tell you that I feel like I understand the book just from the song. Obviously, there's going to be literary devices, and it's not the whole story, and there will be other characters that come into that. But just listening to the song, I feel like I've been inside this guy's head, this guy who considers himself to be this great knight when tilting at windmills and all that stuff. So it's the Cliff's Notes version, you know.
You know what I would like to ask Lightfoot in retrospect? Did you really read Don Quixote?
You know, I'll bet you the answer to that is probably out there somewhere.
No.
Somebody must have asked him that, don't you think?
Yeah, but if you asked me if I read it, I'd say, oh, yeah.
But I don't feel like I need to read it because of Lightfoot's song, and also because, you know, I've got things that I'd rather read, you know.
In those days, those kinds of stories were very impactful. There was like early theater. Everything was very, very special back when Don Quixote and stuff. So the story itself was like a Shakespearean play. It was like very dramatic. Today, it's kind of like, get on with it, right?
Yeah, a little bit. And that's probably why when they made Man of La Mancha, the musical, that they had to reduce it down even further and then put words and music to it.
Back, it was like that thick.
Oh, yeah. I remember 500-600 pages. And the paperback version was in very small print. So it was really, you almost feel like you're achieving something. You're not reading for pleasure at that point.
No. It's like when I learned to play chess, finally learned to play chess. It was a big challenge.
Yeah, good analogy with that.
You're listening to Carefree Highway Revisited. We'll be right back after a word from a podcast partner or two.
250 and Counting is the podcast that walks you through American history one day at a time.
I'm Mike Messner.
I'm Claude Call.
Join us as we spend just a couple of minutes with you
each day,
telling you about the events that took place exactly 250 years ago on that date.
You'll learn more about the big events
and the small events
that led to American independence.
Look for 250 and Counting in your favorite podcast software.
That's 250 and Counting from Acroasis Media.
1 minute, you're a teacher preparing for the new school year. The next, you're transported to a fantastical realm shrouded in forgotten magic. The creatures around you think you're a long-vanished mage. You have no technology. You have no memory of how you got here and no idea how to get home. All you have is misplaced magic. Haladar, the Last Surveyor, is the new fantasy novel by acclaimed author Rob Perrier. Available now on Amazon.com and robperrier.com.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your musical career. First of all, tell us how many albums you've put out. What's your discography like?
Oh, I don't like to do that because it shows how many times I've tried. No. Never make a blueprint. It only serves as a witness to your failures. On the conservative side, maybe 16 or something like that. See, I don't do one kind of music. That's one thing I get criticized for. Not criticized, but asked questions about. I was asked once, John, what style do you do? I said, well, I do all kinds of different music because I love all those kinds of different music. So I did Irish folk music. I've done country music. I've done original music. I do swing. I do like Bennett Sinatra. I do all kinds of things. I constantly got the question, why do you do everything? I said, well, why wouldn't I do everything if I love all kinds of music? And the guy looked me straight in the face. And he said, well, to be successful. And I thought really quickly, I said, well, success at any cost is hardly success. And I went, oh, that was good.
It's very true. I mean, you mentioned Bob Dylan a little while ago. I mean, certainly he has reinvented himself and done things that he liked. Neil Young has done the same thing, Joni Mitchell. So I don't see anything inherently wrong with doing other genres besides just getting locked into something.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I could never do it. It's not my personality. I was thinking of this today about talking to you. And when it comes to me, I never try to please somebody else. It's a terrible thing to say as a musician. Like, I don't write songs so other people will like them. Maybe I should, but I don't. I never have. I write them so I will enjoy them myself. I like the creating of new things. You know what I mean? I'll turn around and next year I'll do a salsa album. Well, maybe sooner than that, actually. But that's for another day. I just don't see the point to doing one kind of music. And I'm the oddball out. So, I'm not saying that I'm right and they're wrong. What I'm saying is that's my lot.
Well, I think the other part of it is that people do go into music and some of the other arts just to make money.
I said success at any cost is hardly success. So I choose not the any cost.
Well, yeah, because it changes the quality of the work that's being done.
Oh, yeah.
And you can tell. So let's talk about the album, A Gentle Homage. What was the process of choosing the specific songs on that album? If I'm not mistaken, there are 7 songs. So what was the process in winnowing down over 200 tunes into a little more than half a dozen?
There was not really any process or whittling down. It was instinctively knowing Gordon's music for years. I knew that they weren't, Sundowns, and they weren't Wreck of the Evan Fitzgeralds or any of those, but they had a quality to them that reminded me of listening to Gordon's release when he played in when he sang in Nashville, which about they were songs that were suitable because I knew I didn't want to imitate Gordon. I didn't want to sound at all like Gordon. And when I thought back to what his earlier recordings were, I knew that that level of energy was there that said he's a romantic. He would do like Ray Price kind of things. I don't really like to use the word crooner, but this Nashville, Eddie Arnold, that kind of thing. So having known that, when I heard these songs, I always thought to myself, that's that guy coming out. Those kinds of songs. He loves those songs. He loves those melodies. He loves that sentiment. He's a romantic, deep at heart. So when this happened, I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't fuss over it or anything. I knew the songs, and here they are. I mean, I could have done maybe 10 or 12, but 7 seemed like a nice number. And every single song on this recording, by the way, is in the key of F.
Okay, so that would mean playing D chords with a capo on the 3rd fret, or playing E chords with a capo on the 1st fret, or if you're really brave, no capo at all. I'm not that brave as a guitarist.
I'm not that brave either.
Interesting choice there. Was that, now that they're all in the same key, was that coincidence?
No, that's just where I was more comfortable. Have you heard the recording yet?
I haven't.
The songs that I chose because when you slow them down and you put them in the key where you're comfortable, you can do a lot of singing, but you can also do a lot of singing talking. So it's kind of like a Tony Bennett kind of thing, where you're not just always swooping. You're talking. What I say to my daughter, who's a singer, I say, just chew the words, make every word count. Because if it doesn't count, why are you singing it, right? Why are you singing all these words if they don't have some kind of meaning? And if they have some kind of meaning, chew them so that the people hear them. And that was always been my motto. And when it came to Gordon, it was easily these songs that were just there. I didn't have to decide. They were all, I mean, I looked at other things and stuff like that, but I just said, no, that doesn't gel with the gentleness that I was trying to get.
I guess the follow-up question would be, did Gordon write all of those songs in the key of F, or did you arrange them for your vocal range?
The second thing.
Okay.
Like I said, the key of F with his songs, I mean, I could have done them in G and everything, but when you hear the recording, you'll understand it's more about a complete presentation. It's not just audio. It is audio, but it's like it's chewing every word, making the words matter. There's not a lot of instrumentation. I'm standing on my own. The lyrics are standing on their own, the song, and my pianist is standing on his own. You know what I mean? It's very stripped down. It's a completely different sound than what you would expect from Gordon Lightfoot, except knowing that he was once that kind of a singer and wanted to be. Actually, him and I share a 10-year difference, but he was a boy soprano for most of his life as a young boy, and I was a boy soprano for most of my life. So
okay.
we have that in common. So I remember like Black Day in July. I couldn't help thinking, oh, he's inspired by Bob Dylan. He wrote Black Day in July because of Bob Dylan. I believe that. I don't know that.
Well, yeah, because it is in the same kind of early Dylan genre, folk and protest. You mentioned a minute ago that you didn't want to imitate Lightfoot. And in the CBC interview that I watched, you said Lightfoot is one of those artists that you shouldn't imitate. And I'm quoting directly. And I agree with you. But I'm wondering, why do you believe that Gordon should not be imitated?
Well, I'm going to have to qualify some of that. I think it's fine to imitate Gordon Lightfoot. When you're starting out and you're learning to play guitar and you're learning to sing, if there's somebody that you're going to imitate Gordon. But at some place along the line, as you start to progress, you have to turn away from that, or else you just become another attempt at being Gordon Lightfoot or something. And that's never going to work. I mean, it's just impossible. People won't let it happen.
Right.
So I think it's not a bad place to start. Everybody has to start somewhere. You buy a book. I remember buying a Gordon Lightfoot anthology with all the chords in it and everything, and it kind of trying to imitate maybe, because you wanted to get the feel of the guitar playing and stuff like that. But eventually you have to move on. You have to create your own sound and have fun on your own.
Yeah, and not only that, but as you've said, no one will ever be able to sing Lightfoot's songs as well as Lightfoot did.
Yeah.
So the imitation only goes so far.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't go very far at all. I mean, if you're sitting around a campfire and somebody breaks out with a Gordon Lightfoot tune and it sounds great, it happens all the time because they're great songs. But if you're looking for a performance and a recording and something, you should add something to it, make yourself part of it, put some skin in the game, right? And do it differently.
Yeah, make it your own in the best possible sense.
Well, this is a really laid back recording, and I'm pretty laid back, so.
Okay. Is there a song that is especially challenging for you to sing that Lightfoot wrote? And if so, why is it challenging? Is it because of the range of notes, or is it because you get so emotionally involved that you can't continue? What's that like for you?
You know what? I remember this question coming up, and I don't have an answer for it. I play just about all of his songs, and each one is so different and such a different approach to it. I know there's certain times where if I'm playing, I actually don't want to play certain songs for some reason, and that's just a random thing. But I can't give you any one that would, like I did a version on Hollow Street, that album I just released a couple of years ago, where I just played the acoustic guitar, the 12-string, and I did Wreck of the Emma Fitzgerald. I didn't try to imitate him, but I did it. I did the song the way I think if it wasn't produced, that it would sound like. And I think that brings value to it. That tells other guitar players, hey, I can play Wreck of the Emma Fitzgerald. Just play those chords and use that rhythm. Like I use a rhythm with it that even Gordon didn't play. Gordon was doing the straight thing because he had the band doing the production, stuff like that. 12-string now you can ding, ding, and kind of create that thing with just the 12-string guitar. So I did that on another album and everything, but that wasn't me trying to be. Actually, it was because I was playing it live, and I said, why not just record this the way it is? Everything was off the floor in the studio. It's just so natural and everything. It's actually one of my favorite albums for myself, is Hollow Street, because of its imperfections and just not perfect in so many ways that it's actually more interesting than some of the stuff I've done for me anyway.
Got it. For me, the ones that I really can't sing, there are none that grab me so emotionally that I can't go on. But because we had and have different vocal ranges, I have trouble doing towards the end of Canadian Railroad Trilogy. We have opened up the the soil, because that's right at the top of my range. So it's just the mechanical aspect of it as a singer.
Try it in another key.
Well, yeah, although I try to be as true to
Oh,
the
no,
originals as I can be.
You shouldn't do that.
Well, yeah, I know.
It's not good for your voice. First
No,
off.
it's not good for my voice. And I think my point is that, I mean, my partner and I
Man,
are
everybody
doing
does.
Rich Man Spiritual, but we're doing it in a completely
That's a
different
hard
song.
one. You just reminded me of your last question. The Rich Man Spiritual is a hard one.
Yeah, I do that. We do that in C sharp, and I don't remember how he originally did it, but that was partially because Laura looked at me and said, Mike, I can't sing it in the key that Gordon wrote. I said, okay.
I had to sing a song in a group once, and I asked, could they lower the key? And they said, no, because the fiddle's in A flat or something like that. It was like, we got to sing it too high because a violin part that we want to put in.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to learn that the hard way, don't you?
Yeah, I did.
You're listening to Carefree Highway Revisited. We'll be right back after a word from a podcast partner or two.
In 1942, when the world needed a hero to fight the forces of evil, a woman had the courage to step forward. Her name was Helen Meeker. Her adventures took her across the United States and behind the lines of both the European and Pacific fronts. President Franklin Roosevelt trusted her judgment. Adolf Hitler put a price on her head. And in the face of overwhelming odds, she battled through everything that was thrown at her, dodged death countless times, and challenged the most diabolical figures in history. The star of more than 20 novels, Helen Meeker proved her grit and determination time and time again. And now the Long Highway Players bring the book series to life on the airways. These exciting dramas will place you in the middle of the action, immerse you in riveting drama, plunge you into unimagined intrigue, and confound you with dark mysteries, while giving you the opportunity to live adventures in a time when the fate of the world hung in the balance. Enjoy the exploits of Helen Meeker and follow author Ace Collins's In the President's Service series on That's Not Canon Podcast Network.
Hi, this is Audie Martello, the host of the Mostly Folk podcast, a 60-minute foray into the music we all love. You will hear newly released albums, classic folk, country, and bluegrass music, as well as some traditional music that may or may not be true to the genre. Sometimes irreverent, often opinionated, but always entertaining. You may even hear a radio magic trick every so often, as well as numerous interviews via Zoom and telephone with established as well as indie artists. Mostly Folk is available wherever you listen to podcasts, and always at mostlyfolk.org.
Do you ever discover new meanings in Lightfoot songs that you've sung dozens of times, or has it gotten to the point where you feel like, okay, I've plumbed the depths of this song as far as I can?
I think it's the second thing you said. I'm actually, I'm not obsessed with Gordon Lightfoot anymore. I used to be obsessed with him to the point where I remember thinking, when I was a fan of his, he was never on television, except for a few specials and stuff, and he was never in the magazines or the newspapers. He didn't do talk shows. And so he was kind of a mystery. And I've spent so much time listening and learning from his music that I'm still the ultimate fan, but I've moved on. Some people are talking about, I don't know what kind of music I'm going to be doing next year. But Gordon was a very large part of my life until I was maybe 30 or something, or 25 or something, just crazy. Lightfoot.
And I'm sure that you're not the only Canadian that has felt that way, and probably not the only American either, but certainly not the Canadian. I mean, for me, I'm still discovering songs because when I grew up, it was pretty much limited to greatest hits and Gord's Gold, and that was it. And then when I got older and I was able to afford my own record collection and things like that, then I began to realize, oh, wow, there's this thing called Endless Wire. Well, how about Sit Down Young Stranger? Those kinds of things. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing an episode on Cold Hands from New York, which I had not heard until fairly recently, and I can't get enough of it. I mean, I just think it's an amazing tune. You're making a living off of playing music, and I'm doing a labor of love to make a podcast. So our experiences are going to be very, very different.
I think you're like more in the middle of where I was when I was a super fan. I think you're bitten with it more now than, of course, I'm older than you too. So I think on the spectrum, you're probably like avid fan the way I was maybe 30, 20 years ago or something like that.
Well, it's very likely. And for me, my promise to myself and to the people that have really been backing me all the way on this was that I was going to do every single song, and then we were going to do an episode under every single album. And then I was going to say, okay, that's it. I've done, everything I can. I've come to the end. I can do no more. But I've still got a lot left to learn and a lot left to broadcast about.
My thoughts on that, Mike, though, are you're not giving yourself credit. I don't think it's about doing every song. You meet different people. You and I just met tonight, and everybody has a different story and everybody has a different feeling, and I can probably tell you Gordon Lightfoot stories and everything that don't relate to every single song. So I wouldn't give it up just because you think you finished the library, because it's not about the library. It's about the conversation.
It is about the conversations. It's just my plan at this point is to, okay, I'll finish going through the canon and then think, okay, who wants to go and revisit these songs with me at that point a second time? Who knows how long that's going to take?
Maybe that's like painting the bridge. You start at one end, you get there, and you got to turn around and do it again.
Yeah, it's very possible.
The bridge got to stay painted.
Well said. And we're going to come to that idea in a second or two. CTV did an interview with you around the time that the record A Gentle Homage came out, and I think it came out in January of 26. They quoted as saying, 7 Lightfoot songs reimagined in Gracie's own style. And without giving too much away, can you say a little bit about what the stylizations of those 7 songs sound like?
They sound like, if you're listening to them and you're not really listening. Have you ever heard a recording by Tony Bennett and Bill Evans? Just voice and piano. Well, that's what this is. It's very similar to that. There's a few other things in it, but it's very, like I said, I'm deliberately trying to do something different with the songs. If I had heard any versions that sounded like this, I wouldn't have done them. And I've changed some of the approach to the melody and everything like that, add little addendums to lines and stuff like that, just as a stylish thing. That's what it sounds like. It sounds gentle, has jazz chords in it. It has dissonant chords. It's very musical and very articulate. The words are what counts. The piano gets out of the way for the words every time. It's full of air. You hear me, the piano, a little bit of oboe every now and then, a guitar here and there, but it's not an ensemble. We didn't use a click track. It's just natural timing. The piano hits the chord. I could wait 5 seconds before I come in. And we follow each other. So it's very loosey-goosey, very organic. It's not strict timing or anything like that. Nothing like that. It's almost like black licorice. If you want to like black licorice, you got to eat black licorice.
I think anybody who's listening to you describe it is going to really want to go out and download this thing. The way you're describing it is just so intriguing. And I know I'm going to go try to find it.
Well, I find it intriguing. That's why I did it, because like I wasn't planning on doing this. I just was sitting out on the deck last summer and I went, man, I'd love to hear those songs done this way.
Sure. Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. Speaking as somebody who did meet Gordon several times, and even if you didn't have him over at your house, you certainly felt a certain amount of emotional closeness to him. Is there something about Gordon as an artist or a person that you wish more people understood?
No, because I can't say. I didn't really know him that well. Like the one story that I told you really is my experience with Gordon Lightfoot on a personal level, where I got to read who that person was. When he stepped forward and put himself in the story to make me feel better, that said everything. That was the whole night. There was nothing else. No, I don't remember talking about anything else. I remember walking away from that going, I just saw Gordon Lightfoot. I feel like I met Gordon Lightfoot, right? Because that's a really nice gesture, right? I gave him, at the time, it was a cassette at the time of my first recording, and I gave it to him, and I said, I just want to warn you, Gordon. I said, there's a little bit of you in there. When I listen to more stuff now, I'm on Spotify, and I hear
Right.
artists that I've never heard before, like locally and stuff like that, and I go, wow, this is happening out there? This is such a great thing. I mean, this AI and the Spotify and all this is wonderful. This is making the world really small.
Yeah. And usually in a good way when it comes to music. Let me ask you a hypothetical question. Let's say that Gordon is still around. He's in his right mind and he's got his hearing in good shape and he's in good shape and he's in a position where he can appreciate music. And he sits down and he listens to your Gentle Homage. What would you want him to notice about the record?
There's two answers to that one question, because if he was to see me play live, I would want him to notice my finger picking. I kind of copied it off of him. It's like, what's it called? A Travis style
Yes.
pick. I fell into that very naturally. I didn't have to learn that. I just saw somebody do it and I picked it up and it worked for me. But it was the same kind of style that Gordon Lightfoot uses. So I'd want him to notice that about my personal performances. Now, this record is really so different that that wouldn't come into play. I think he would really enjoy it because deep down inside, he knows he probably wanted to do that way himself, or maybe not as drastic, but a little bit more romantic, I think. I think he would like it because it's just different. It really is different. It's not like he's listening to himself. I've seen him on TV and stuff. He hates watching himself, right? Like most people.
Sure.
I think he would actually enjoy this. I think he would just say, yeah, that's a decent version of that. It's not better than his, but it's something that's different. And if it's different, it's important.
One of the things that someone has told me or has suggested to me is that I'm doing this podcast. In a sense, I'm being a steward of Gordon's works. I mean, keeping his music alive and keeping it in the ears and the minds of the people who either haven't heard it or heard it once and didn't really appreciate it. And Gordon's been gone now for 3 years. And I'm wondering, do you kind of feel a sense of responsibility? And I realize that you do a whole bunch of other types of music and more power to you. But do you ever feel a sense of responsibility towards keeping his music alive for new audiences?
No, not at all. Not even a little bit. Because the reality is his library is extremely live and well. And there's enough fans out there that, anything that has quality like that will stand the test of time. And it may not be cool and stuff like that and be on the charts and stuff like that, but it's highly listenable, it's enjoyable. And I don't think anybody has to worry about Gordon Lightfoot. He has a huge volume of songs, as you know. And I don't think anybody has to worry about that. I think he's one of the lucky ones. I think he's one of the, not lucky, but I think he's one of the ones that is not going to go away. We're not going to forget about Lightfoot songs. It's like we're not going to forget about Elton John's songs. And great songwriters. Great songs last forever.
So we've talked about the record. We've talked about your roots in the music and your versatility regarding that. What's next for John Gracie? Are there any upcoming shows or projects or recordings that people listening to my podcast should know about?
Well, I want everybody out there to, it's not my album, but my song, a band called Alice's Glitch. And it's being released on Spotify tomorrow.
Oh, wow. So that would be May 6th, 2026.
Yeah, 6, yeah. It's on Spotify and all the streaming networks, Apple Music and stuff like that. And it's just, the band is called Alice's Glitch. So give them a listen. They're a great band and they play great stuff and very, very hooky. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's really special. What I'm doing everything I want to do, because it's like I've written a comedy movie, and I'm looking for producers. Right now, it's a 2-hour comedy special. It's a coming-of-age movie. Like I said, I'm just writing songs, and I'm not doing a lot of live performances. I don't do that anymore because it's like I've really fallen into a pattern now of writing, either scripts or songs or music. I'd probably get back into playing once I finish the itch that I'm having with writing.
So where can people find you and your music online? And I should probably make sure that they know how to spell your name. Is it Gracie?
That's right. Just think of, a lot of people will remember John Gracie. He was the champion jiu-jitsu fighter from Brazil.
Right. I remember
When the
that.
fighting started back, the WWF or something like that, his name was Hoist Gracie, Royce. So it's the same last name. It's a Scottish name, actually. I don't know how he got it.
But is it johngracie.ca? Is that the website?
Yes, it is, yeah. And like I said, the albums will be everywhere. Like I said, Spotify and Apple Music, everywhere.
The man is John Gracie. The name of the album is A Gentle Homage, and he has been my guest.
A gentle homage to Gordon Meredith Lightfoot Jr. That's the full title.
Thank you. All right.
Pretentious, moi?
Not pretentious at all. John, thank you so much for joining me this week. It has really been a kick to talk to someone who appreciates the music as deeply as you do. And I am looking forward to hearing the album and looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Great, Mike. It was nice talking to you too. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Well, next time on Carefree Highway Revisited, my guest will be Carol Navarro, who's been on the show before, and she and I will be discussing the song Cold Hands from New York from the Back Here on Earth album. That episode will be released in June 2026. You can find all our episodes on www.lightfootpodcast.com, and I hope you'll tell someone about the show and give it a positive review wherever you get your listening matter. Until we meet again, this is Mike Messner reminding you, run for the roses, but don't forget to stop and smell them. We'll see you next time along the Carefree Highway.